and not from a place of being lost in the ego. And I'm saying, really, who am I? Like I'm an ambassador. I'm one who carries the sacred light of God, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to spread that light. Like if that's what fuels it in a breathwork session, or not even a breathwork session, just one breath. If that's what I'm meditating to when I'm breathing, so it's great. If I'm going into a psychedelic session and I'm looking to be healed and I'm giving the energy to the psychedelic as my healer, and that's my relationship to it, then that to me is not finding God. That's finding a relief from pain, which that's sometimes how it could start. Because for severe addicts, for people that are really, really, and at least their perception has been broken. They can't even relate to the messages that we're talking about right now, the meditations of the breath and all that kind of stuff. That message is so inappropriate or unrelatable to them. So a person in that context where they're stuck in a deep cycle of addiction and a deep cycle of brokenness, yeah, so it could help. But again, I want you to have a relationship with this thing. That this is just a vehicle to get you back to who you are and be able to do that process, not eventually needing the drug, so to speak. I've seen people, they did 40 ayahuasca circles in 1 year and they think they're healing, but in reality, they're just stuck in a cycle of endless revelation. Oh, I got another awareness without any real change. In fact, their life became mostly the focus is on the drug or the medicine. What they're really after, what people are really after when they're going to that place is they want to go back to a place of innocence. What's a place of innocence? A place before it was wounded, before it was traumatized, before it was hurt, before life meant pain. They want to go back to that place. They want to find their innocence, where it was taken away from them, why they don't believe in themselves, why don't love themselves. So they're in a search for endless chase of this innocence. It makes a lot of sense. But the
Because there you
path,
feel a lot of inclusion, you feel a lot of unity, you feel everything. You see the light that it could be okay better. There's a bigger picture.
yeah, when people do ayahuasca ceremonies together, it's like a kumbaya. Everyone feels good after it in the end. You get a lot of that feeling of unity between, we've broken down the layers in front of ourselves to be able to connect again. But life is bringing that down and going and living life, not just in that circle. Take it home,
Yeah.
bring it to your wife, bring it to your kids, bring it to your communities. If it's
It's
doing that
this,
and you found a clear path and you bring God into that whole thing, by all means, I'm not telling you that I know
it's
better. I'm just telling you what I've seen.
the secret of Shema Yisrael, the secret of Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and Baruch Shem, right? The Yichud Ilah, Yichud Tata. Chabad talks about this a lot, about the depth behind Shema Yisrael. That we can go to a place, and we have to go to a place of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that everything is just oneness. There's nothing besides Hashem, Ein Od Milvado. But you only can really, really say you experience any kind of consciousness of what that world means from a place of Baruch Shem Kivod Malchut Olam. That's from, may his name be blessed and be present down here in this world, in the COVID, in the Gashmut of this world, in the day to day. When I can bring Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad into this world, then I have a complete ichud, right? I can connect. It's like you're saying, it's a lot of light, but you can't keep doing it to yourself. You can't keep going back there because you're not managing to find light. You have to be able to find light down below as well, right? To find tefekut even in the lower places, in your job, in your tefillah, in your Torah. It's all there. The healing is completely in our in everyday practices that we have, and even in life, right? That, like you said, a person could just breathe through their day, whether they're religious or not. They can find a lot more connection if they actually just approach it with consciousness.
Sure.
It goes to this idea of being present, right? I heard from Rav Kluger, Avram Tzvi Kluger, so who Bizat Hashem, I hope on Sunday I'm gonna get a, not to time this episode, but on Sunday I'm gonna get a Bizat Hashem, a one-on-one meeting with this amazing tzaddik, and he has a book called Ichudei Bodedut. In English it's called One. But it's all about coming to a level of ichud, of unity through talking to your creator, through contemplating on the creator. And there he says in the book that being in the present is so essential and so important. And it's the hardest thing to do because we don't have so much control. Sometimes we feel we don't have control. So we want to run to the past. We want to do tshuva on what was and try to fix what was. Or we want to run forward and we want to pray about the future to make sure, because there we feel control in those two places. But when a Jew, a Yehudi, which is the Yud, can connect to the Hoveh, which is the present, then you have Yudke Vavke. Then you have a revelation of Hashem in the highest way possible, complete mercy. And and that's the day to day, right? Essentially, that's what we're talking about. That comes down to being present in the everyday actions that you're doing and finding meaning in them as well.
For sure. So what's your question?
There's no question. Just
Oh, you're
making
just
sure
saying
we're aligned.
what?
Making sure we're aligned that
No,
all these
yeah.
things are these big retreats, these breakthroughs, these big lights are great, but in the end of the day, they're to open you up to be able to do that every day, all day.
You got to ask yourself a question. Am I facing life? Am I facing life? How hard is it for me to face life? The world is a mirror for you. It's always teaching you. It's always showing you things. The question is, are you seeing the message? Oftentimes we think it's the other person, or it's my wife, it's my kid. The famous thing we hear is, yeah, they make me feel this way. Nobody makes you feel anyway. You're just not taking the message that's being reflected to you. So you feel that way. And, our job is to find oneness in the world. How do you find oneness in the world? You find oneness in yourself. You don't find oneness in the world by everybody bowing down to your needs. Oh, if my son wouldn't do this, or if my daughter wouldn't do that, my wife wouldn't do this, or my boss wouldn't do that, then I would be able to be myself and be okay. What conditions are you placing on life to feel good, to be okay?
On everybody else too. How does a person develop being present more?
So I think it's a good question because I think the idea of presence just needs to be addressed for a second about what it actually is. And everyone says just be present, but most people don't actually know what that means. It's not like a magical state where you're going to feel calm or perfectly in the moment all the time. It's like you don't walk around like this. Being present is about being fully here with whatever is happening, the good, the bad, the uncomfortable, and also the positive. It's it's about the ability to stay with your experience without trying to numb, escape, or distract yourself. From a Torah perspective, we say being present is deeply connected with this idea of emunah and faith. It's trusting God because life is full of circumstances we can't control, but we have to be fully engaged in those moments with a sense of faith, with a sense of purpose. And it says, in Parshas Yisro, which we're coming up to, the Torah describes the experience of Matan Torah as God gave us a Torah where the Jewish people stood at Mount Sinai and they were preparing that readiness. They were waiting. They were attuned. They were prepared to receive. That's being present. It's being fully available to life in all of its fullness. And, it's another quote comes to mind, which the Baal Shem Tov was big into this. It's a quote from Tehillim, Shivisi Hashem lenegdi samid. I place God before me always. It's not about imagining God is standing in front of you. It's about maintaining that constant awareness that every moment, every challenge is given to me with a certain divine purpose. And then when we live from that place of awareness, we're present in a much deeper way. But of course, it's not going to be easy because the world, just as much as there's more presence coming into the world, we see that the opposite effect is happening. We're in a world filled with distractions, phones, work, constant pressure to be productive. Everything is pulling at you. Yet presence is
Yeah,
where the real work happens. It's where healing happens. It's where you meet yourself and ultimately you meet God. So I'll tell you one thing, just one thing about presence. This last thing is that everything in life happens for a reason. Do you believe that?
100%.
Yeah, I think everyone would say they believe that. A lot of people, you ask them today, they're going to believe that. If everything in my life is happening for a reason, that means that God is orchestrating every moment. For what? To have a relationship with him, to have a relationship with your deepest sense of self. When you don't trust the process of life, like a lot of people get angry about life, like angry about their circumstance. It's like avodah zara. It says kolakoyas ilu oivdei avodah zara. It's like avodah zara that you're like bowing down to some. What do you mean you're bowing? I'm not going into a room and bowing down to an idol. What are you talking about? I just got angry. I'm human, right? You hear people say that,
You are the idol.
but you're bowing down because you're copping out of a message that's constantly playing, which is this is God's world. He's orchestrating this moment. You're getting angry because you don't accept the moment that's happening to you, which means you're challenging God, which means you're going to a dark side of yourself where it could be that God doesn't exist in this moment, which is saying that I could get angry here because I'm not seeing God's divine plan. So you're challenging the hierarchy of the whole world in that moment. Now, if you could be present to that, and you could realize that your anger is actually a divine message for you to find something out about yourself. Well, by being present, you can find that. And how do you be present? You start breathing intentionally. That's the code to become present, because you'll notice where you keep the tensions in your body, what your breathing patterns look like, how to calm down in moments. Recognize that you're probably stressed out a lot of your day and you're very reactive and you don't have a moment that you feel like you can breathe. So your breath is going to anchor you in the here and now because you can't
It says
breathe in the
in
past or the future. You can only breathe in this moment.
it says in this book, Neshama Neshima, that the place of dveikut in the body is right here, between between the nose and the lips, right? And you're talking about shiviti. Shiviti is equilibrium, right? And I just thought about it like this is the place of dveikut, and the lips are literally like an equal sign, like staying equal, staying aligned, right? Also, the symmetry that we have here in our part of our faces, it's pretty crazy too to think about that. Baruch Hashem, it's a challenge. Definitely a challenge, but the more that you practice, this is essentially what it comes down to is meditation. This is something that an idea that I've been thinking about more. I'll tell you the background of it. I met a person that's since October 7th, Baruch Hashem, he started to connect more and he went down a whole Jewish rabbit hole and he started to seek classes about Shabbat. And he came across classes that I've given in the past on the Kabbalistic and the Hasidic meaning behind different practices and different times and prayers and meals that we have on Shabbat. And he watched this series and he showed up here to Tzfat a few weeks ago on a Tuesday. He's like, it's Tuesday. I know you're giving class. And it was beautiful to meet him. And I asked him what he's doing in the world. He says he does ceremonies and workshops and retreats. And I got into this whole discussion with him about what kind of people are coming to his retreats and what are they leaving with? What is their experience? What is the healing that they're talking about? And essentially he said that they're, people from the US mainly that are working day-to-day jobs or in careers, and they take a time out of the office for 3 days to go to Mexico or Colombia and to join this retreat. And there they experience togetherness. They have deep, meaningful conversations. They do breath work. They sometimes they pray or they go into nature and connect. Um, and they rest. They're not working. They're not doing what they do every day of the week. So while he's talking, my thought is, this sounds like my life. Deep, meaningful conversations every day, 3 prayers a day, three deep meditations a day at least, right? Blessings throughout the day, um, going to nature, connecting with friends, being part of a community. I have a Shabbat every week that allows me to step out of the world. I have prayers 3 times a day that allows me to step out of the world. So I asked him, what do you think about that? Right? He gave me his opinion. This guy he's not as religious. He's on his journey now. But I'm going to ask you this. Being present, I see this, we see this. We all know religious people that don't get what I just mentioned out of their day-to-day life, right? They don't go to Shacharit and leave feeling like they went for a massage or that they had a beautiful experience of unity in the past hour. Rather, they're just flipping pages. And the secular person doesn't even know that this exists and that this is possible because he's for sure not hearing it being talked about. I live in the Baruch Hashem, the beautiful holy city of Tzfat, and this is the ruach of our city. This is the right. This is the approach here lechatchila that we come to when we approach our Judaism, we approach our connection to Hashem from this place of finding dveikut, finding connection. How do we get this to be more mainstream? How do we get people in Toronto and in New York, in Jerusalem, and everywhere else in the world to approach the day-to-day life that, again, it's built up like a retreat, right?